People continue to express frustration with the state's unemployment system. Every day we hear from you. Some have gone months without checks and spend hours trying to get through busy phone lines. We went on your side asking the state's labor secretary for answers. Out-of-work Kansans are waiting.
I get told that I'm going to get paid in 2 days. That 2 days comes, I don't get it.
Waiting for an unemployment system.
I've never experienced anything with this kind of delay.
Desperate to catch up.
Everything about this has been just frustrating.
Frustrating for state officials and those caught in the crunch.
My last check I got in July.
Kelsey Holmes of Topeka has an 18-month-old son and a daughter on the way. She applied for pandemic unemployment assistance, and no one can tell her why she's not receiving it.
Every time I call and ask, they say your account looks fine. Your paperwork is turned in. State Labor Secretary Ryan Wright says since the pandemic began in March, Kansas has paid 3.2 million claims totaling $2.3 billion, an amount greater than the prior 8 years combined.
We are trying to patch systems that are 40 years old. No system was designed for this.
The result, cases backed up. Wright says since he became acting secretary in June, the backlog of regular unemployment cases has shrunk from 25,000 to 6,100. But the federal PUA program involved creating a whole new administrative system, and 25,000 of those cases remain stacked up. Wright says a new piece was just installed and brought online this week that should help.
Now, if they log into their system, into their accounts, they can figure out what we need from them, and they can submit that online, and then we can adjudicate that and get those checks out the door. And that will happen in short order.
Why couldn't your people simply answer the phone when these people are calling so they could have gotten this information in that much more quickly?
As far as the calls go, at the start of this pandemic, there were 20 people answering phones. And we have, at the height of it, there was 1.5 million call attempts in a single day.
Wright says call center staff has gone from 20 to now more than 250 people answering phones, but they're still logging up to 4,000 unique callers a day. Responding to complaints about long hold times, they set up the system so that if you'll be on hold longer than 15 minutes, you get a message the lines are full and you should call back.
And what I can tell you is 80% of the folks that are calling in are able to get through within the first 2 to 3 attempts that they try to get in. And we're able to track that so we know. So,
but those are the complaints we're still hearing.
Absolutely. You're hearing those complaints, but what I'm telling you is the data doesn't show that.
And I literally might call 40, 50, 60 times off and on during the day waiting to get through.
Steve Hansen of Council Grove started calling when the benefits he received for months stopped without warning October 3rd. This week, he finally got through to speak with someone.
They told me that I'd been flagged for some sort of, that my situation had been flagged for fraud.
But you'd never received notification you were flagged for fraud?
No. All I know is I've been in the system, I've self-certified every week, and nothing's changed.
Wright could not comment on Hansen's specific situation, but said it's possible a legitimate claim is getting caught up in efforts to fight unprecedented levels of fraud. He said the agency is stopping 2,300 fraudulent claims a day, 157,000 so far.
This is nationally costing taxpayers between $8 and $26 billion in fraudulent claims. And so we owe it to taxpayers to make sure that when we're paying out claims, that we're paying out valid claims.
But it's those people with valid claims for whom patience is growing thin.
It's really difficult because, our bills are racking up.
Some are concerned the clock is ticking, with many of these programs set to expire later this month. Wright offered reassurance.
If you're owed $1 from this agency and your claim is valid, you will get paid that money, even if these programs end.
The question for those waiting is when that payment will come.
I would just hope the state would respond by recognizing the problem and finding the personnel to actually solve it so they can communicate.
Wright said the agency continues adding staff to address the backlog. And again, that new online feature for the PUA system just went active this week. So if you are part of that backlog, Wright urges you to log into your account through getkansasbenefits.gov and see if you can provide what's needed to get your claim moving. And they do promise that they will look into Mr. Hansen's situation with that fraud block on it. The Kansas Department of Labor says it's stopping about 2,300 fraudulent unemployment claims a day, and we hear from many of you each day who are caught up in them. 13's Alyssa Willett spoke to a company that's had 4 of its 17 employees fall victim in the past month.
Protecting our employees' identity is our number one concern.
Veronica Wooten is the president and chief operating officer at Suntel, a software company in Topeka. Over the last month, several of her employees had fraudulent unemployment claims filed in their names.
We received a request for response from KDOL on an existing employee, and so that was our first indication that we had a problem. Since that time, we have received 3 additional.
Wooten says she's concerned the state doesn't know where the breach came from. She hasn't been able to actually ask anyone.
We apologize for the wait. All of our agents are currently helping other callers
because she can't get through.
We've not received anything from KDOL except for automated responses from the fraud reporting hotline on their website. And I don't think we're alone. So, I think it's important that we understand what's happening and how did this happen and what's being done to help stop it.
She is now helping her employees get identity theft protection and cautions others.
Be aware as an individual in our community, in our society, and take necessary steps to protect yourself.
The Labor Department declined our request for an interview today, but did say if you've been a victim of unemployment fraud, visit their website, reportfraud.ks.gov, or call the fraud hotline at 291-6059. If the phone lines are full, the system will refer you to the website and end the call. Labor officials also gave us an update today on the backlog of unemployment claims. We told you last week they added a feature allowing people on the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program to submit missing information online to avoid the phones. As of last Friday, they say 5,000 of the nearly 25,000 people in the backlog have started the process. Also, the regular unemployment benefits backlog is now just over 5,600. That is down from more than 7,400 people a week earlier. However, initial claims in Kansas were up 35% last week from the week before.
Several viewers continue to tell us they haven't been able to access the Labor Department's website to get their jobless benefits. We've asked Kimberly Donahue to look into the reports and caught up with one person who says that he's all too familiar with this issue. Kim?
Ralph, viewers told us limited access on the site left them unable to file weekly claims. Some say it's been a common disruption.
Many Kansans looking to file unemployment claims Monday were greeted with error messages across the Department of Labor's website. One viewer sent us a video showing the messages spread across multiple sections of the site. We reached out to KDOL about the issue. They referred us to a statement on their Facebook page from Monday, which read, "KDOL is experiencing technical difficulties at this time, and we apologize for any lag or delay this may cause." When we asked what those difficulties were, they referred us to the same statement. Trouble getting through to the Labor Department has been a recurring issue for Ferris Wood throughout the year. His first unemployment claim was 3 weeks late after he was laid off in March. It kicked off a months-long struggle to get his payments in a timely manner.
There for a while I could get in, I could log in on the site and file. And then it would stop again. And it would stop again, so I'd have to go back, call again. And I finally ended up running down there like 3 different times.
Wood says in late fall, a KDOL employee suggested he stick with contacting the department by phone. He says the situation didn't get any better.
I'd have to time it out on my phone, 8 o'clock sharp, and I'd hit it, and sometimes I'd get in like that. And sometimes I wouldn't, but if I didn't get in right then, it was hopeless the rest of the day.
When we asked the Labor Department about irregular payments, they referred us to a statement they gave to us on Friday, which read in part, quote, "KDOL has made progress eliminating the backlog of regular UI claims, but we are limited in what we can do to speed up this process. With our partners, we're able to drive the adjudication backlog to approximately 3,570, and we continue to believe that we will be able to make significant progress by the end of December." Woods recently found work and says he hopes his days of dealing with KDOL are over.
It's not good dealing with them because, man, wow. I know I'm fortunate to have gotten something, but, man, you don't want to go through it.
Wood says he's grateful to have at least gotten some payments, unlike others, while he was laid off, and says he's still owed 2 outstanding payments. KDOL also said they couldn't comment on individual claims without a waiver.
Some Kansans are getting tax forms for unemployment income they never applied for nor received. 13's Danielle Martin is on your side with what to do if this happens to you.
Melissa, the Kansas Department of Labor opened a specialized call center today to assist who received a 1099-G form. But with the high volume of claims, many are unable to get through. The department says they've been receiving about 2,300 fraudulent claims a day. I spoke with one victim today who's among the victims.
Denise Berkeley says on December 10th, she filed a fraud report on an unemployment claim she never made. But then a few months later, she received a 1099-G tax form.
On Saturday, it said someone had received $1,035. They claimed it was me. Of course, it wasn't me because I never filed for unemployment.
Berkeley says she called the Kansas Department of Labor's call center as instructed by the agency. But when Berkeley called Monday, she did not get an answer.
We apologize for the wait. All of our agents are currently helping other callers. If you believe that your identity has been compromised or if you have another type of fraud activity to report, please file a report at www.reportfraud.ks.gov. Thank you for calling and have a great day.
Of course, you can't get through. I did report it on the fraud website again and said I wanted to dispute the 1099 that I received. There was no response that said we will get this corrected or we'll fix it or we'll get in contact with you. Nothing. Just said thank you for your submission. So frustrating. They have to know that this is not working, that there's massive incompetence going on. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get anyone to take responsibility.
Tax Director Steve Ridpath with BT & Company says there are solutions for those who are victims in identity theft.
The first thing you need to do, if you didn't do it when you got notice of a fraudulent claim last fall, is to go to the KDOL website and report that. The second thing would be to go to the KDOL website and report the 1099-G that you don't think is correct. And then if you're still concerned, you might even report this on the IRS website.
As tax season is approaching, Ridpath says identity theft victims should file their taxes in a certain way.
So what we advise here at BT & Co. is that to report the 1099-G proceeds on the 1040 and then back those same proceeds out on a miscellaneous other income line on the 1040 itself. So there will be no tax effect that the 1099-G would have caused at all.
And there are a few other things to be aware of.
You also maybe want to go to the 3 top credit reporting websites and register to make sure that nobody's using anything else, in the way of credit cards or anything to steal money from you.
The Kansas Department of Labor says it stopped more than 250,000 fraudulent claims since the pandemic began. They encourage victims who received a 1099-G to submit an unemployment assistance request. We posted a link to our website at www.com.
All right. Danielle, thank you, and we'll continue. Probably every day we will have something about this fraud story. Well, there was another reason for delays. The Labor Department's unemployment benefits website has been down all day today, but scheduled to come back up in the morning. KDOL is installing that security upgrade to prevent fraudulent claims from being issued. The site went down Saturday afternoon, as we'd reported, and is set to be up and running by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. The new system is called LexisNexis and will implement identity verification and a 2-step authentication process for every user. You'll need to log in and answer a few simple questions to verify who you are when that site comes back up first thing 7 a.m. tomorrow. On to the Labor Department now, and they did launch their website, upgraded now with software combating unemployment fraud, but it was not a smooth process for everyone or anybody filing. 13's Kimberly Donahue continues following this story for us, talking with the claimant on why it's so crucial for the system to work properly now. Kim?
Ralph, KDOL told us some encouraging news. As of this afternoon, the new system stopped 390,000 fraudulent login attempts. But we heard from many of you on our Facebook page about problems logging on once the system came back online this morning. One man said getting his payment makes the difference of keeping his house running.
Christopher Cates started filing for unemployment when the pandemic began in March. But the winter months have proven to be the most challenging.
We're going on almost 8 weeks of not receiving any money, and with no answers in sight, it's very frustrating.
Tuesday offered a sign of hope with the Labor Department launching its new website. But when he tried to log on, he could not access his account. He tried again when we met with him and ran into the same issue.
It says password incorrect, so I finally had to click sign out.
He tried to sign up for a new account and was redirected to this page. But then the page could not be found. He went back to the home page and clicked a button requesting help. He received an email, but it led to a message that frustrated him.
The password can only be reset by an administrator.
So he contacted one.
Thank you for calling the Kansas Department of Labor Unemployment Benefits line. For login or account issues such as password resets, press 5.
And when he thought he might be getting through,
all call center representatives are engaged with a claimant at this time, and the hold queue is full.
We reached out to KDOL about Chris's issue. A spokesman told us their numbers show that by late Tuesday afternoon, more than 15,000 people successfully got into the system, and fewer than 200 received an error, and just under 2,500 people needed to take further action to prove their identity. In a statement, they wrote, quote, "We believe those having issues are due to unfamiliarity with two-factor authentication. If they are having issues, we have CSRs on staff ready to help them when they call into the contact center." Chris said the continued missed payments means continued sacrifices.
We can't pay the rent. I have a daughter that's on disability, and if we didn't have that, we would be really in trouble. It pays utilities.
While he's grateful to have some resources, what he's looking for is progress.
We cannot let people just drown while we try to figure out what the problem is. We have to have solutions.
We reached out to Governor Laura Kelly's office for a response, and we have not yet received a comment. KDOL released a guide on how to navigate their new multi-factor authentication system, and we posted a link to the guide on WIBW.com.
Labor Governor Laura Kelly gave an update on the Department of Labor and where the state stands on helping Kansans receive their unemployment. 13's Isaac French tells us how the department plans to update their filing process.
Yeah, Danielle, Kelly says when the pandemic began in March, the amount of staffing at the department was at an all-time low. She says they scaled up their call center from 20 to 450 people, and they're in the process of hiring 100 more. The department is also in the process of updating their 44-year-old IT system to allow them to help more Kansans faster. Despite the current challenges, Kelly says KDOL has gotten nearly 4 million claims processed and sent out more than $2.5 billion.
Now, we need to support our unemployed Kansans in every way possible. We cannot make it more difficult for them to access the benefits they need to keep a roof over their head, their lights on, and feed their families.
Kelly also urged Kansas lawmakers to approve her budget, which included $37.5 million for IT modernization.
Thanks, Isaac. Now, one Kansas woman has had enough with the Kansas Department of Labor and is taking a stand. Renee Perigo filed for unemployment 17 weeks ago and has yet to receive her money. She and her husband are both unemployed and are collectively owed over $11,000 from the department. She has called KDOL numerous of times and is on her last leg. She has decided to go on a hunger strike until Kansans receive their unemployment.
I mean, we have no 401k anymore. We have no more savings. I mean, as embarrassing as it is to say, we've even had to tap into our kids' savings, which I haven't had to touch in 10 years. I quite literally have nothing left to lose.
Now, Perigo intended to stand alone, but was shortly joined by others.
The Legislative Division of Post Audit has found that Kansas has paid out not $300 million, some $600 million of fraudulent unemployment claims, more than double what the Labor Department estimated when we told you about the story yesterday. That's when KDOL put the figure at $290 million. Kansas paid out about $2.6 billion of state and federal jobless benefits for all of 2020. KDOL says nearly 25% of the roughly 650,000 claims filed were fraudulent, and the audit had used that percentage in figuring the scammed dollar amount. The Department of Labor says, though, that method is flawed because a majority of the cases flagged for fraud were stopped before any money had been paid out to people who didn't deserve it. The audit found a large issue had been stemming from the federal PUA, the PUA Unemployment Assistance Program. Fraudsters realized they could apply for PUA benefits without adding any supporting documents. And then they used personal information stolen in previous large-scale data breaches to submit claims in other people's names. KDOL came out with a statement saying the auditors didn't use all the data the agency provided, and their report, quote, fundamentally misunderstands KDOL's fraud prevention process. Responses from Governor Laura Kelly saying she's ordered an external audit to determine why there's such a large discrepancy.
Some might say we're just saying that because it makes us sound better than post-audit. So what I've done is order an external audit so that somebody outside the Department of Labor will take a look at those figures and come up with an independent approach.
The legislative post-audit had found the balance of the state's unemployment trust fund had dropped 75% last year.
That has to be repaid back. We have 66,000 employers in the state of Kansas, and they can't carry that burden by themselves. That could be, 100%, 200, 500% increase in taxes for them just to pay back that amount of money. So it really will potentially impact all Kansans. Every Kansan will be impacted financially because of the mistakes that were made at the Department of Labor. We appreciate their efforts. We know they're working hard, but ultimately someone has to be accountable for the millions of dollars that were fraudulently paid out.
KDOL had installed that new fraud mitigation system last month, saying it's already stopped about 5 million bot attacks and fraudulent login attempts.
The Kansas Department of Labor says it will continue working to pay all unemployment claims due and earn back people's trust. I spoke today with the agency's deputy secretary on the heels of a legislative post-audit report that found the state may have paid out $600 million in fraudulent claims, double the agency's estimate.
Speaking very bluntly, Melissa, it's challenging.
Deputy Secretary for the Kansas Department of Labor, Peter Brady, says he knows people are frustrated by an unemployment system hampered by delays and fraud. KDOL says it paid $290 million in fake unemployment benefits last year. A legislative post-audit report put the figure at $600 million. Brady says that's because they factored in fake claims that never had money paid.
I do know that we provide the data before this audit. I also know that LPA was on a tight timeline to get this first question answered.
Brady says KDOL continues working with LPA. Regardless of the final figure, he says you won't have to foot the bill for it.
If you as an individual were the victim of ID theft, we will do everything we can to make you whole, to reconcile that. If you were a business and there was a fraudulent claim against your business, we will make sure you're not charged for that claim as part of this tax year.
KDOL implemented new software in January to fight the fraud, but the agency says its entire system is outdated technology.
When it became clear in May, June, July of last year that this was not a problem that was going to go away quickly, what was being done then to fast track this?
Yeah, Melissa, and the process really started in 2019. And when the pandemic struck and we saw the influx of claims, we did have to pivot to ensure that we address that.
Brady says by fall, they relaunch studies to determine what a new system will need, and they'll put out a request for proposals from vendors this spring. But it will still be the end of the year before they accept a bid.
We have one shot at this. We don't want to go into a modernization effort, realize that we've made a critical mistake in the planning phase.
Trying to call to get help? Brady said KDOL is seeing increased issues with auto dialers. Monday, 41 callers using auto dialers made nearly 34,000 calls. Tuesday, 54 callers were responsible for more than 43,000 dials. Brady says those auto dialers cannot connect and simply create a clog.
They're all hitting the system. They're hitting at the same time, and it just makes it more challenging for legitimate claimants to connect.
He also suggests people spread calls throughout the day for the best chance of hitting a downtime. They're also hiring 100 more call center reps and adding online resources.
We're going to have to keep working at day in and day out. And hopefully as we do that, we continue to build back trust.
Many federal programs are up for reauthorization in the next relief bill, but Brady says they are hopeful the U.S. Labor Department will issue guidance much more quickly this time around so that they avoid a long gap in issuing payments like what we saw after Christmas. Another consistent topic during the pandemic has been unemployment claims. Governor Laura Kelly today spoke about changes she is making to get people the help they need to get their benefits. 13's Joseph Hennessy lets us know what they plan. Joe?
Governor Kelly today announced KDOL will be adding more staff to their call centers. She says they'll need the help as they have not been able to keep up with claimant calls the past 2 months.
While increasing call center representatives seems like a slam dunk, a simple answer to the high volumes we're experiencing, each of the steps to get there requires significant planning and structural support to make it work.
Governor Laura Kelly announced Wednesday the Department of Labor will add 500 surge staff workers to its call centers. Those are customer service reps who will be able to offer higher service than general call center workers. She expects the first 75 surge staff workers will be on the job by Monday. She says the agency experienced the same problem in the height of the Great Recession in 2008, but now is able to take more than 2,500 calls all at once.
The staff of the Department of Labor is working around the clock to resolve the payment and support issues so that we can make this all better.
Governor Kelly reminds Kansans not to use auto dialers as they do not work with KDOL's system. On one day in February, 54 callers were responsible for more than 43,000 calls.
So please support your fellow Kansans by refraining from using those auto dialers. It doesn't help you, it just hurts other people.
Governor Kelly acknowledged the impact of delays.
I know it's been slow and apologize for that. It's been a combination of forces, including the Fed's delay of getting that extension passed, and then clearly our technology issues that continue to plague us to this day.
Also starting Monday, call center hours will be extended to 9 p.m. weekdays, 8 to 5 Saturday, and 1 to 5 on Sundays.
One of our state senators is trying to bridge that gap for Kansans struggling to get their unemployment benefits. That story now from 13's Danielle Martin. And Danielle is live at the Capitol telling us how Senator Kristen O'Shea is helping Kansans.
Yeah, Ralph, Senator Kristen O'Shea of Topeka said that any Kansan who has any issues of trying to get their benefits or have any issues getting fraudulent claims can contact her. She said that she's trying to reach out to the Department of Labor.
I'm here to represent them, and so with so many people having these challenges, I want to help them get through the process.
Senator Kristen O'Shea of Topeka says people can contact her for assistance being heard by the Kansas Department of Labor.
Early on, we were noticing that the phone calls and the emails of people just desperate for help was for not being able to get their unemployment. And so we early on in our newsletters, social media said, hey, we can do what we can to help flag you as a priority and help you walk through the process with our contacts at Kansas Department of Labor. And so we've been doing that for a while. Thankfully, we have contacts there that as representatives and senators, we can contact specifically, and they'll communicate with us about where people are at.
Since then, O'Shea says she's received about 12 calls and or emails a day from Kansans who need help.
What's been keeping us up most at night is hearing these stories, and they'll just email you every day and say, I'm about to lose my phone. I came to the library to email you. And so you know the hardships they're going through. Like I said, we even stopped at one of the constituents' houses and provided groceries, and they said, it's emotional to eat fresh fruit again. So that's the real stuff that people are dealing with, and it definitely tugs on your heartstrings.
O'Shea says she's seen improvement with KDOL's recent efforts to upgrade software and add customer service representatives.
So we're starting to hear people say, I've got through, and we're starting to get Kansas Department of Labor is also sending us, hey, we've followed this person through, here where they're at. So we're getting more communication from them. The administration did put some more staff in those positions, and we're starting to slowly see those results.
Now, Senator O'Shea says that they're still working with any Kansan who's in need. We reached out to KDOL, and they have made no comment on whether they are working specifically with any legislators. Ralph, Melissa.
All right, Danielle, thank you. The Kansas Department of Labor building today in what they call an unemployment crisis awareness event, and they call themselves prisoners of a broken KDOL system. These people and others wore different colored ribbons around their wrists to represent their losses and their struggles while working with the Department of Labor through the pandemic. They got the attention of State Representative Adam Thomas, who hails from Olathe. Organizers want to send a message to the agency, a message that may be overlooked.
It's not about living off of a system. It's that we sincerely lost our jobs from a pandemic. And yeah, we can go get another job, but that's not going to get us out of the hole that we're in now because we did depend on KDOL.
There's a bit of sadness there. Like, has it really come to where some of these folks are not only out of money, but they're about to lose everything? So it's sad, but you know what? We need to hear this. It's about efficiency, and it's about us doing our duty to make sure government programs are run efficiently and people get the help they need.
The organizers tell us they plan to hold another protest rally on the 10th of April. KDOL says they respect every American's right to protest and that they strive to get every legitimate claim paid out. The agency reminds us here at 13 News, they say they are adding those additional customer service staffers, combating the surge in calls. The new employees are being deployed to the phone between now and early May. And by then, KDOL says they plan to have 950 people taking calls.
Labor Secretary says the unemployment situation is recovering, and she's hopeful increased staff, new conveniences, and improved systems can help those with continued concerns. Amber Schultz spoke exclusively with 13 News today. She shared how they're working to fix problems now to avoid repeating them in the future.
We've come a long way, but there's a lot left to do.
3 months after taking the helm at the State Labor Department, Secretary Amber Schultz says calls are down and people are getting paid.
Less than 2 weeks ago, our phones were getting 100,000 calls a day, and now we're down to 40. We are answering 60% of the calls that come in every day.
But she acknowledges some people are still waiting and not getting through on phone lines. When the pandemic began last March, 20 people answered calls. Schultz says that staff has now expanded to 440.
We're still bringing on staff onto our phones. We're expanding our training to those folks that are on the phone so they can be able to assist more claimants with more questions.
In its latest weekly update, KDOL said the PUA backlog was down from 25,000 last fall to 623, and the regular unemployment backlog is eliminated. But 58,500 people had failed identity verification and needed to redo it or get help.
The ID verification is one large bucket of people that need assistance.
To help them, KDOL is working with law enforcement agencies to allow people without computer access or who may be nervous about doing it digitally to submit their ID verification there. They're also training more staff to assist people with submitting it online.
Right now it is taking a little bit longer. We were a little underestimating the number of people that would need to do that.
But Schultz says it is necessary as they continue to ward off scammers. As the second part of a legislative post-audit and 2 independent audits continue, KDOL completed an in-depth review of 1099-G tax forms. It found they paid $140 million in fraudulent regular unemployment and another $150 million in fraudulent federal benefits in 2020.
More important point of that is all the fraud that we did stop. We're estimating we stopped about 500,000 fraudulent claims, and if those have been paid out, it would have been to the tune of about $22 billion.
Also, new efforts are underway to get people back to work. Under a new state law, the My Reemployment Plan program launched this week. KDOL will refer those receiving benefits for 3 consecutive weeks to the Department of Commerce.
The Commerce will work directly with them, to look at their resume, to see if they need some kind of training, how they can get them re-engaged in the labor market.
For those still struggling through unemployment issues, Schultz asks for patience.
I don't have any excuses, but my apologies. We are working to fix the problem, and we will fix the problem.
KDOL also is moving ahead with efforts to modernize its 40-year-old computer system. A request for proposals recently closed. State officials now begin reviewing them and will select a vendor later this year. We'll share more of our interview with Secretary Schultz tomorrow at 4 on Eye on Northeast Kansas.